My name is Bill Dean. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Texas Tech Alumni Association. And on behalf of the association and Texas Tech University, we'd like to welcome all of you, the ring recipients, your parents, your friends, your supporters. We want to welcome all of you to the McKenzie Murphy Alumni Center for what is becoming to be a very big tradition at Texas Tech, our ring ceremony. We hope it's an experience that you will long remember. And we're celebrating, basically, your academic achievements at Texas Tech. But also, I think we're celebrating not just academic achievements, but some of the experiences, some of the relationships that you've had while you've been a student here. And when you look at that ring in the future, hopefully you'll recall some of those relationships, the friends you made, some special moments perhaps. Maybe it was even a professor who caused you to stretch a little bit farther than you thought you could. Maybe it's an event like Saturday night's Carol of Lights. There have been a lot of memorable things that have happened. And if you're a graduating senior, over the last 4 years, Texas Tech has experienced unprecedented growth. We've been named just recently a National Research University by the Coordinating Board, which is very significant. It means an additional $8 or $9 million to the academic program every year at Texas Tech, not to mention the prestige that it gives our university and the enhancement it gives your degree. Been a lot of physical changes at Texas Tech in the last 4 years, roughly about $166 million worth, starting with the new Jerry S. Rawls College of Business, roughly $80 million project, $25 million more spent to renovate the old business building where the new College of Media and Communications now occupies. Just east of us, the Kent-Hance Chapel, a $4 million project. Just south, a $52 million new residence hall that houses 550 students. Been some other changes. Guy Bailey, our president, resigned this summer to take position at the University of Alabama. We're currently under, a search is underway to replace Dr. Bailey. Kirby Holcutt replaced longtime athletics director Gerald Myers during this period of time. Texas Tech has embarked on a capital campaign under the leadership of Chancellor Hans. I'm sure he'll say more about that when he speaks to you, but I think we're closing in on the tail end of that campaign. That's a $1 billion campaign that will have enormous impact on our endowment, on our scholarship program, on our research program, and on our academic program. In addition, Forbes magazine just named Texas Tech as one of America's best college buys. In athletics, well, we've had some highs and lows, haven't we? Let's talk about the positives. Our women's tennis team won their first Big 12 championship in history last spring. We've had great success in our Olympic or spring sports, men's and women's golf, tennis, soccer, and track. Not so much in baseball, basketball, and football. But we're hopeful for the future. When you came in tonight, you were greeted by members of our Student Alumni Board. This is a service organization that serves the Alumni Association. They host many of our events. They were the group in 1998 that did a pilot study on this campus to determine if Texas Tech students would embrace a single ring tradition. And the results were overwhelming, that they would embrace that single ring tradition. So that group sat down with other students and designed the ring that you're going to receive tonight. The nomenclature of that ring will be explained to you as part of this program this evening. You have, as I said, earned this ring. You had to have 75 hours to qualify for a ring. When you get the ring tonight, we recommend that you place the double T facing inward. And on graduation day, the president of the university will invite you to change your tassels and turn your rings around so the double T faces outward as a symbol that you are indeed a graduate of Texas Tech. Also, when you registered this evening, you've been made a member of the Alumni Association for a year. If you've already joined, we'll extend it for an additional year. It is important that you stay connected with Texas Tech. It's important that wherever you go, you get involved in Texas Tech activities on the local level. the best way to keep involved and keep in touch on a continuing basis, we think, is to be a member of the Alumni Association. And it's not just about money. Money helps, but it's also about involvement. It's getting involved, doing academic recruiting, standing up for Texas Tech wherever you go. It is extremely important. So we encourage and hope that you will maintain your contact with the Texas Tech Alumni Association. Let me introduce the participants in our program this evening. Obviously, you know Chancellor Ken Hance. He will present you with your ring as you come across the stage after your name is called. After you receive the ring, we'd ask you to hold it because of an explanation about the ring that will come at the end of the program. Tyler Enos, behind me, is the president of the President's Select Group, and he will read your names as you come across the stage. Kurt Langford is a former Associate Vice President of our Alumni Association. Kurt was in charge of marketing. He is now with the Balfour Company. He is their National Director of their ring program. And he will take you on this tour of the ring once you've received it. Shelby Wynn is the Internal Vice President of the Student Alumni Board, and she will be in this position and will give you a scroll as you exit the stage and invite you to sign a roll book that every participant in this ceremony has signed in the past. Sarah D'Agostani of the Texas Tech Federal Credit Union is at the table over here. She will present you with a replica of your class ring as a paperweight. The Federal Credit Union is one of the sponsors of this event this evening. Zach Funes is a saddle tramp. His role will be explained as time elapses in the program tonight. So let me first of all invite Chancellor Hance to come forward. If there's anyone at Texas Tech that probably does not need an introduction, it would be Chancellor Hance. A graduate of this university, professor in the College of Business, state senator, United States representative, member of the Railroad Commission, very successful attorney, and our Chancellor, Ken Hance.
First of all, I want to say congratulations and rest assured that I'm not going to filibuster tonight. I've been on the other side of the podium, and one time I still hold a record of public officials. I was state senator, was invited to a little town for a sports banquet to speak, and the banquet started at 7:30, and they introduced me to give my speech at 25 to 12. I've been there 4 hours and 5 minutes in a metal folding chair. When I got up, I thought I had polio. I was paralyzed from the waist down, and I was able to look around the crowd and do a lot during that night. And I thought, I prayed, if you'll let me get out of here, I'll never do it to somebody else. I did not. First of all, I want to tell you I love Texas Tech. I love every part of it. I loved it as a student. My parents brought me here in 1961, and I fell in love with the school, and I graduated in 4 years. If I had to do over again, I'd probably take 8. And I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's not encouraging. I said that one time, and a kid came up afterwards, and he said, you know, I really appreciate you saying that about 8, because he said, I've been here 7. We just want to get you out. We want to get you out. This is a great university. You could not have picked a better university. And I want you to be proud of that. Our people are top notch. When the Wall Street Journal did an article on where do you get the most qualified, the best qualified graduates, they interviewed 459 hiring agents within companies. And we were number 1 in the Big 12. We were number 18 in the nation, about 5,000. We were ahead of the University of Texas, we're OU, Virginia, Illinois, MIT. We're ahead of Notre Dame. We turn out great graduates, and I want to tell you why. There's 2 reasons. One is a great school, but the other thing, our people come from homes that have good work ethic. If you've got a job from 9 to 5, you know you need to get there about 15 to 9, or not, maybe 8:30. And at 5, if it's not done, you make sure it's done before you leave. That's the key everything you do every day in your job as you get out, I don't care how small it is or how large it is. I had a young man that graduated from Texas Tech Law School. In my law firm, we were interviewing people for an open position, and everyone had interviewed him except me. And he came to visit me, and I was busy. And I asked him a few questions, and I said, Clay, I want you to do something for me I know you're qualified to do. He said, what's that? I said, see those books in that box over there? I want you to carry them down to my car with me. He said, yes, sir, be glad to. His attitude was one of gratitude. He carried those books and we talked. I didn't ask him a legal question. I asked him about his mother and dad, what was important to him in life. And we got to the car, he put the books in the back of the car, and I called the front office and got the manager of the firm, and I said, hire him. And we hired him. Within 2 years, he was partner. It didn't bother him that somebody cut. You know, body language. His body language went, okay. You know, he was just excited. He wanted an opportunity. He wasn't looking for a job. He never even asked what we were going to pay him. He wanted an opportunity, and that's what I want you to want. And I want to tell you about some of our people that wanted an opportunity. When Congress and the White House had problems, and General Motors went broke, they didn't call on someone from Harvard or Yale or Stanford to turn it around. They called on a Texas Tech graduate, Ed Whitaker. The only person in the history of the world that's been CEO and chairman of the board of 2 of the 10 largest companies in the world, AT&T for 18 years, and then General Motors. And he serves on the board at Exxon. He is the first person in his family to go to college. We didn't get him attacked and say, hey, you probably shouldn't try to do that. We encouraged him to shoot for the stars, to be the best that he can be. He loves Texas Tech. AT&T Stadium, Jones AT&T Stadium, about 58 million reasons he loved Texas Tech. I like for people to know that. And you know, Angela Bravo, Forbes magazine, every September they come out with the 100 most powerful women in the world. The last 6 years she's been on that list every year. The year she was number 4 on the list, I called her and I said, Angela, you're ahead of Oprah Winfrey and Hillary Clinton. I'm impressed. And she said, my little sisters are impressed. I'm ahead of Queen Elizabeth. I like her. That's a spunky girl. She is in there. She's fighting for Texas Tech. If you go to the New York Metropolitan Opera, the lead soprano, the #1 rated mezzo soprano in the world, is Susan Graham. Has 2 degrees from Texas Tech. She's from Midland, Texas. And someone forgot to call her over and say, you can't do that. We set high goals for her. And she did an excellent job. If you watch the CBS Evening News, the anchor Scott Pettit, a Texas Tech alum, he's the lead investigative reporter for 60 Minutes. He called me one time, I said, I hope this is not about a story. It was. He called to visit. In the Middle East, when there was a conflict and the U.S. had to protect our interests in the Strait of Hormuz, the USS Abraham Lincoln was sent there, and Admiral John Alexander, a 1985 graduate of Texas Tech, was commander of that fleet. In Iraq, the Bank of Iraq, the CEO of the Bank of Iraq, largest bank in Iraq, is a 1985 electrical engineering graduate of Texas Tech. I could go on and on. I'll throw out a couple more for you. Dallas Lee Brady, 2 years ago Mother's Day, was pitching for the Oakland A's and threw a perfect game. Perfect game. His mother died of breast cancer. His grandmother was at the game, and she told him before the game started, she said, Dallas Lee, your mother's here in spirit, and I'm here, and I prayed about it, nobody's going to get on first base. And they did. If I owned the Oakland A's, Granny'd go to every game. I'd make sure that she was there. The leading receiver in the NFL the last 4 years is Wes Welker at Texas Tech. All those people are Texas Tech graduates. I'm proud of them, and I'm proud of you. My motto, and you heard me say this at orientation if you started 4 years ago, my motto is dream no little dreams. If you're going to dream little dreams, go to A&M or Texas. I'm just kidding. I always get them, somebody will write me a letter about that. I'm just kidding. It's they're good schools. In fact, we hire some every once in a while. We got an outreach program to help them. Also, at the end of the song, strive for honor evermore. You're going to have to make tough decisions in life. You're going to have to stand up to nuts sometime. You're going to have to do what's right. Don't put it off. Penn State is a living example. But they had their priorities wrong. They tried to hide something for 12 years and put a black eye on that university forever. Do what's right. Don't worry about what the naysayers will say. Work hard. Make us proud. There's no doubt in my mind, in this crowd, there's someone that can be a member of U.S. Congress. You know, when I got to Congress, I was just always amazed, and I thought, how did I get here? And then after I've been there a few years, people come in, and I was like, I wonder how they got here. You kind of change your tune. I want you to do well. I expect you to do well. And I expect you to do everything you can to do what's right, work hard, be on time. You know, when they ask you to do something small, do it with enthusiasm. I got a job working for Governor Smith in 1968. And there was a lady that was his top assistant. She asked me, I'd been there about 3 days. And she said, my trash can's filled up. Could you, yes, ma'am. And after I saw that, I said, I'm your trash guy, anytime. And later she told the governor he ought to appoint me to a board of regents when I was 29. Be consistent with how you treat people. No matter how high they are or how low they are. Be consistent. You're going to have a joyful life. I look forward to shaking the hands of each of you. To the parents and relatives, I'd like for y'all to hold up your hand. Parents and relatives. That deserves a clap. They're part of it. It's a team effort. You're part of a great team. There are ups and downs, but stay focused on what's important. And I want all of you to be successful. In closing, I'm going to tell you, success means happiness. I had a guy in law school tell me one time, a professor, he said it's better to be happy and rich than to be poor and happy. But he said, what I want to be is happy and rich. And I want to be able to give back. The Alumni Association, I think we'll put the $100 a year. I started saying a month. That's better. Give to the Alumni Association. And in this crowd, I know there's someone that's going to really do well. We've got one of our graduates that was a student of mine when I taught in 1970. And he's given us a lot of money. We had another individual whose granddad started Texas Tech in 1925. And the granddad lived to be 103, and when he was 102, he watched his grandson give Texas Tech $50 million. It wasn't a promise gift, it was cash. And how proud he was. But I want you to give back. Give in every way that you can. Because you've gotten a great education. Great education. You could not get a better education any other place in the world. I believe that, and I look forward to shaking each person's hand tonight. Thank you.
Let me introduce a couple couple more people before we start. Our marketing staff basically is in charge of all of this. Courtney Marshall, our Director of Membership. Lisa Lowe, Director of Multimedia and Communications. Mandy Wiley, who's Director of our Affinity Program, basically is in charge of the Ring program. Manny Ramirez, who is an intern in our marketing department, here somewhere. And then Tim Shore is at the back. Hold up your hand, look at the back of the room. Tim Shore is the Regional Manager of Balfour. This is a company that manufactures your ring. When the ceremony is over tonight, Tim will be up here. If there's anything wrong with your ring, if there's any question you have, any problem, come tell him. We'll make it right. We want you to be absolutely satisfied with this ring. It's that important. Balfour and the Texas Tech Credit Union also will answer any questions you have about the rings or about the credit union or anything. Party time photos. Take a picture of you receiving the ring. And then, even though it's a little chilly, I'm sure they'll be glad to go outside, take pictures out at the ring. In the foyer is the La Ventana group. They're one of Texas Tech's oldest traditions, dating back to 1925. And their representatives are here in the Grand Hall so that you can pick up a yearbook if you've ordered one or purchase one. We're now ready to begin the ceremony.
Tolani Afolabi, Lagos, Nigeria. Bolaji Afolabi, Lagos, Nigeria. Elizabeth Alanis, Channelview, Texas. Allen, Duncanville, Texas. Simon Alvarez, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Rochelle Anibo, Sugarland, Texas. Joelle Darcy. Joelle R.C., Hamlin, Texas. Cynthia Aragon Hernandez, Crane, Texas. Alexander Ahrens, Keller, Texas. Travis Arrington, Fort Worth, Texas. Elizabeth Baker, Los Angeles. Michael Fairfield, Leander, Texas. John Paul Garandi, Midland, Texas. Laney Bateman, San Antonio, Texas. David Batista, Katy, Texas. Beck, Plano, Texas. Leroy Benavidez Jr., San Antonio, Texas. Ryan Bennett, Houston, Texas. Matthew Blake, Fort Worth, Texas. Brady Volk, San Angelo, Texas. Alex Brazier, Carrollton, Texas. Jake Gray, Fort Worth, Texas. Jared Bro, Davidson, Texas. Carrie Brooks, Lubbock, Texas. Brooke Broughton, Midland, Texas. Parker Brown, Temple, Texas. Andrew Drummond, Plano, Texas. Travis Brewster, Fredericksburg, Texas. Weston Burson, Florence, Texas. Michael Buster, Fort Worth, Texas. Allison Butler, Odessa, Texas. Riley Calvert, Plano, Texas. Christina Campos, Houston, Texas. Abel Weston Serda, Iowa Park, Texas. Megan Chambers, Wolford, Texas. Michael Shavera, The Colony, Texas. Aaron Sirota, Austin, Texas. Cassie Cochran, Snyder, Texas. Haley Collins, Spring, Texas. Blaine Corliss, Estancia, New Mexico. Tyler Crafton, Henrietta, Texas. Joshua Criswell, Denver City, Texas. Roy Crownover, Italy, Texas. Ashley Daggs, Killeen, Texas. Brent Doherty, Midland, Texas. Courtney Doherty, San Marcos, Texas. Mackenzie Davidson, Fort Worth, Texas. Bethany Davila, Seminole, Texas. Corey Dawson, Midland, Texas. Evan Davis, Houston, Texas. Levi DeLeon, Houston, Texas. Eric Denton, Big Spring, Texas. Zachary Dimmick, Lubbock, Texas. Lorena Dominguez, Denver City, Texas. Derek Draper, Katy, Texas. Nicholas Duchesne, El Paso, Texas. Jacob Edwards, Mansfield, Texas. John Ely, Kingwood, Texas. John Engel, Groesbeck, Texas. Griffin Emerson, Houston, Texas. Mark Essery, Carrollton, Texas. Mitchell Fair, Dallas, Texas. Aaron Farley, Mansfield, Texas. Lily Fish, Crane, Texas. Ethan Fleshman, Hewitt, Texas. Edward Flores, Amarillo, Texas. Nicholas Forbes, Rowlett, Texas. David Fordyce, Austin, Texas. Sarah Forehand, Austin, Texas. Matthew Frizzell, Plano, Texas. Lillian Gaither, Richmond, Texas. Julio Garcia, Garland, Texas. Zachary Garrett, Amarillo, Texas. Paul Gianni, Austin, Texas. Ethan Glenn, The Woodlands, Texas. Francisco Gonzalez, Los Angeles, California. Jeffrey Goodall, West Willis, Texas. Kate Gracie, Fort Worth, Texas. Alex Granados, Georgetown, Texas. Ryan Gregory, Rawls, Texas. Jeremiah Griffin, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Jordan Guzman, Kingwood, Texas. Haygood, Moody, Texas. Kelsey Hancock, Baytown, Texas. Daniel Hansen, Richardson, Texas. Colleen Hawk, Argyle, Texas. Dustin Hawkins, Muleshoe, Texas. Lauren Heber, LaPorte, Texas. Stephanie Henderson, Acton, California. Dylan Hess, San Antonio, Texas. Matthew Hilburn, Denver City, Texas. Sterling Poinsey, Miles, Texas. Taylor Howell, Southlake, Texas. Bryce Humber, Windthorpe, Texas. Travis Hunt, San Antonio, Texas. Jason Hunter, Lubbock, Texas. Lee Quinn, Vietnam. Sosi Yacovides, Berkeley, California. Calvi Immel, Wheeler, Texas. Paul Ives, Garland, Texas. Stephen Jacob, Clear Lake, Texas. Jen Jett, Georgetown, Texas. Sarah Jimenez, Corpus Christi, Texas. Miranda Johnson, Pasco, Texas. Jonathan Jordan, Grady, Texas. Khalid Kais, Flower Mound, Texas. Miles Kiefer, The Woodlands, Texas. Jordan Kirk, Idalou, Texas. Thierry Komu, Cameroon. Kyle Krieger, Flower Mound, Texas. James Lane, Lubbock, Texas. Bradley Lane, Cedar Park, Texas. Travis Lee, Paris, Texas. Megan Lee, Plano, Texas. Daniel Lewis, Salina, Texas. Long, Arlington, Texas. Javier Lozano, Maryland, Texas. Catherine Marcotte, Katy, Texas. Michael Marley, Plainview, Texas. Colby McCormick, Plainview, Texas. Ty McCullough, Austin, Texas. Elizabeth McDonald, Levelland, Texas. Audrey McKnight, San Antonio, Texas. Katie McMenemy, Lubbock, Texas. Haley Mayer, Howland, Texas. Adam Meesey, Amarillo, Texas. Zachary Mills, Arlington, Texas. Logan Millsaps, Friendswood, Texas. Emily Mitchmore, San Antonio, Texas. Erica Muchigamba, Paw, Texas. John Montgomery, Plano, Texas. Seth Moore, San Angelo, Texas. Caitlin Moore, Rowlett, Texas. Justin Mooring, Bedford, Texas. Gabriela Moreno, Abernathy, Texas. Lauren Myers, Houston, Texas. David Nicolati, Austin, Texas. Chinwe Obi, Dallas, Texas. Brian Ortiz, Corpus Christi, Texas. Jacob Page, Waxahachie, Texas. Juan Palacios, Laredo, Texas. Kevin Panos, Allen, Texas. Michael Payne, Lubbock, Texas. Nicole Pellarian, Plano, Texas. Blaine Peterson, Hamilton, Texas. Jeremy Phillips, May, Texas. Crystal Cordillo, El Paso, Texas. Ileana Castillo, Del Rio, Texas. Potts, Fort Worth, Texas. Ryan Ramos, Lubbock, Texas. Joshua Ratcliffe, Lumberton, Texas. Amir Rabasipur, Plano, Texas. Chris Reed, Magnolia, Texas. Jennifer Reagan, Garland, Texas. William Ryman, Wichita Falls, Texas. Philip Robb, Midland, Texas. Ansley Robinson, Bakersfield, California. Trevor Rudzinski, Plano, Texas. Vanessa Rutherford, Pleasanton, Texas. Javier Salinas, Grapevine, Texas. Robert Saltzman, Huntington, Texas. Marley Sargent, McLean, Texas. Bradley Schaefer, Burleson, Texas. Eric Schwartner, Miles, Texas. Zach Scott, Austin, Texas. Cyan Scott, Andrews, Texas. Corbin Selman, Katy, Texas. Catherine Setterbo, Fredericksburg, Texas. Morgan Shaston, Denton, Texas. Connor Simpson, Abilene, Texas. Robert Smith, Bernie, Texas. James Sneed, Midland, Texas. Lacey Snyder, Memphis, Texas. Justin Sosa, Houston, Texas. Henry Stoneham, Lampasas, Texas. Mary Nell Subia, Big Lake, Texas. Cody Sultanfuss, Academy, Texas. John Sweeney, Lindsay, Texas. Ashley Temple, Lubbock, Texas. Melissa Thomas, Colleyville, Texas. Mark Thomas, Katy, Texas. Josh Thompson, Brownfield, Texas. Christopher Tomdale, Southlake, Texas. Alonzo Torres, Houston, Texas. Kevin Traub, Dallas, Texas. Edwin Trujillo, Los Angeles, California. Lauren Turner, Florence, Texas. Mark Vance, Plano, Texas. Montana Vasquez, Hudson, Texas. Michael Vela, Wimberley, Texas. Mason Vincent, Odessa, Texas. Brandon Ward, The Woodlands, Texas. Sheldon Webster, Aledo, Texas. Kyle Wells, Jacksboro, Texas. Kelsey Roberts, Burleson, Texas. Brooke White, Lufkin, Texas. Andrew Whiteley, Fort Worth, Texas. Kaylin Williamson, Eastland, Texas. Bryden Wilson, Mansfield, Texas. Garrett Wilson, Fort Worth, Texas. Timothy Wingo, Fort Worth, Texas. Don Wolf, Bullhead City, Arizona. Jordan Wright, Perrin, Texas. Kintra Yates, Bernie, Texas. Stephen Saltillaire, Plano, Texas.
I just want to say one thing. There are times my job's a tough job. It's a 24/7, but tonight, these deals make up for it. What promise we have in you, and what hope you give us. And that I want to make one introduction. Justin Sosa, you still here? You didn't leave early, did you? Stand up. Justin Sosa was from Houston, and I convinced him, he was already committed to A&M, and I convinced him to come visit. And he came out here, and he told me within the last 6 months, the best decision he ever made was coming to Texas Tech. And this means a lot to me. And some of you were in my class, you came through and said my favorite word, anticipate. And this is really, this always touches me. Y'all are going to do well. And if you have a down day, remember that Chancellor Hance is pulling for you, because I know that you're going to prevail. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Chancellor, and the support that you provide for the program. I know it means so much to the recipients as well as to the family members here. I'm thrilled for all of you, and I know we're about to wrap up the ceremony. It's one thing to wear the ring. It's another thing to understand the story, and that's what we want to do here to close. And been asked to kind of help share that story, and I'm honored to do so. You know, the Texas Tech ring is rich in tradition. representing a common bond among all who have walked the halls of this great institution. Its symbols are timeless and relevant to every Texas Tech graduate who's ever been since 1925. The Chancellor talking about somebody back to that 1925 class. It's a young institution by comparison, but the year on your ring represents, is one symbol representative of every single graduate of this institution that year we all have in common. You know, this ring tells Tech's story from one class to another. And in the tradition of class ring traditions, according to class ring traditions, it also tells the story from one generation to the next. And thank goodness, that is what Texas Tech is now doing with a stronger ring tradition every year. We applaud you for participating in the program as there's more ambassadors for the university telling its story through that ring. What is our story? Well, it starts with a double T. You know, the unmistakable brand. Starting at the top of your ring as you look at it. Double T is pretty powerful. You know, this was originally Texas Technological College, but it became Texas Tech University in 1969. I was only 3 years old at the time, but as I understand it, there was a movement afoot to name this university Texas State University. It's a logical name, it made sense. But it also shows the power of the brand, because that would have meant the dismissal of the double T. No. There was a large faction that was very, very affectionate towards the double T. Thankfully so, because that is our brand that has stood to this day. It is unmistakable and something you should be proud of. In between the stars on the top of the ring, the bezel surrounding the double T, is the year 1923. 1925 was the first graduates, but in 1923 is when the university was founded. In fact, that's the year that Governor Pat Neff, the governor of Texas at the time, actually signed Texas Tech into legislation. That's when this university, this great university, became a reality. For those of you wearing the traditional ring, look on the seal side of the ring, which actually represents the Broadway entrance to this campus, which symbolically represents your first days on this campus, or your entrance into this campus. That's the primary entrance into this university, especially in that day from the downtown area heading west. The university seal, which is on that Broadway entrance, that landmark on campus, formally adopted by the Board of Regents in 1948, depicts the following: 10 cotton bowls representing Lubbock and the 9 surrounding cotton-producing counties. This is the largest cotton producer throughout the United States. So those cotton bowls, once mistaken for acorns, but that's another story. Those cotton bowls represent the industry of this land, of this West Texas land. It also, the symbols on that seal, covered by the American eagle, representing our nation. You know, it's interesting, Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, believed strongly in public education. So much so that he paved the way for public education, providing higher education to the public. Essential, he said, to maintaining a free society. I think that's important to remember that. And that government is on our seal. The United States emphasis on higher education, educating the society. Also symbols on that seal is a book representing church, a key representing the home where you came from, a lamp representing learning or knowledge, and of course the star representing the great state of Texas. Flip the ring to the other shank, you'll see the mast rider. It's a great part of our story, mascot if there ever was one. From its origin as the Matador, our masked rider is one of the most recognized and most revered in this land. I have the privilege of working with colleges and universities throughout the country. And I always try to get my pictures taken with various mascots at the various campuses that I work with and upload that to my Facebook wall. The Notre Dame mascot, I was with Purdue Pete recently, but I am not prouder of any mascot than the Matador, our masked rider. In 1954, the masked rider gained national prominence when leading the Red Raiders into the Gator Bowl before our team soundly defeated Auburn. It was a watershed moment where we came on the national scene as to who the Red Raiders were. In fact, the statue over by the Frazier Alumni Pavilion is of Joe Kirk Fulton, who made that historic ride in that day, bringing us even more onto the national scene. Behind the master rider on the ring is the administration building, the first building on campus. In 1925, President Paul Whitfield Horn launched our very first graduates from that building. You must imagine a time in which there was nothing here on this campus other than that building and nothing but cotton fields for as far as you could see. It represented great vision. And the words that he shared with that first graduating class, he said, everything that is done on these West Texas plains ought to be on a big scale. Let our thoughts be big thoughts, he said, and broad thoughts. Let our thinking be on worldwide terms. These were inspiring words from the fearless champion in his day. Dr. Horn, as Chancellor Hance likes to say, did not dream little dreams. Nor did he, our very first president, want us to dream little dreams. He challenged us from the very beginning. He helped fashion what has become a stellar institution that we should all be proud of. The administration building on your ring symbolizes our outstanding university and the beautiful Spanish Renaissance architecture that so well represents us. Beautiful campus, stunning campus. The bell tower, which is in that administration building, as you may well know, there are 2 bells in that tower donated by the class of 1936. And they first rang, the very first time those bells rang, was for that group's graduation. They have rung historically for athletic victories throughout the years, as well as other memorable occasions, such as when Tech was invited to join the Southwest Conference and later the Big 12, when the Iranian hostages were released. There's several occasions in which those bells have rung. Carol of Lights is another tradition where the bells ring. Tonight, however, at the conclusion of this ceremony, those bells, Zach Hunis is here. He's a freshman from Katy, Texas, but he's going to begin making his way now. Appreciate Zach helping out, but he's going to make his way to the bell tower right now as we conclude the ceremony. He's got the keys to the tower. He's going to go up there. And as you leave the market tonight, you're going to hear the bells ringing in your honor. And tonight, they're not ringing for an athletic victory. Tonight, they're ringing for your academic victory, for what you've achieved to this point in your academic careers here at this great university. Just think, 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years from now, when you come back to campus, perhaps homecoming, maybe with kids in tow, you're going to walk by that building, you're going to look up in that tower, hear the bells ringing again, perhaps, but you're going to know, and you're going to be able to tell your kids or your family, there was a night in which those bells rang for me when I received my ring. Remember that. Look at the bottom, the band, the belly of your ring, the double T banding together. Note that the double T connecting across the band of your ring. This represents the great network of Texans, Texas Tech graduates throughout the world, and the common bond we all share as Red Raiders. The friends we made and the memories we'll forever hold. It represents Tech's lifelong connection to you, but even more so, it represents your lifelong connection to this great university and to the Tech family. Those that you sit with today, as well as the thousands of others out there wearing this ring. While it should remind you of the wonderful experiences you had here because of all the investments of those who came before you, let it also remind you of the responsibility to maintain the tradition of supporting Tech. You've heard a little bit about this already. The mission of this Alumni Association is to cultivate loyalty, tradition, service, and lifelong relationships. Though your ring exhibits your education and affiliation with this fine school, let it also serve as an enduring reminder of the opportunity you have to support your alma mater. There's no easier way to sustain your support than through membership in this Alumni Association. I encourage you to consider that. In appreciation for you participating in this ring tradition, the board of the Alumni Association, I'm happy to tell you, as you probably already know, has invested in your first year membership in the association. And for those of you who have already taken the initiative to join as students, or as young alumni, your membership will simply be extended another year. So congratulations to you, and I applaud you. Thinking inside the ring. Turn your attention to the inside of the ring. It takes on great personal meaning for everyone individually. We often say the outside of the ring is about us, but the inside is about you. Your personal engraving tells your story. Should you ever lose your ring, your personal inscription also allows this Alumni Association to help track that ring back to you. And although hidden inside every ring, and I remember so vividly when we sat together with the committee and designed this ring, it was interesting. It wasn't an afterthought, but it was the final touch on this ring design. You will wear within the words, "Strive for honor." A constant reminder to represent yourself and your university honorably in everything you do. As the late Judge Rod Shaw said at my own commencement, do well and make Tech proud. A few final reflections. Understand that your ring should become a part of you throughout your life, throughout good times, throughout the bad, throughout the wins and the losses. Your ring should repeatedly cause you to reflect on a special time and some special people at a special place. You will soon graduate and move on, probably with a little more emotion than you might expect. But your ring will allow you to carry this place with you everywhere you go. It will become a catalyst for conversation, as others will not only recognize that you're a college graduate, but that in fact you did graduate from Texas Tech University. The ring will begin to look worn as it ages with you. It should become an extension of who you are. If you're one day blessed with children, the time will come when your son or daughter won't care about your iPod, your iPhone, your iPad, your whatever, or the music on it for that matter. But they will be interested in keeping your ring. They'll want that ring. A timeless treasure that helped define who you were on this earth. I now understand this more personally than ever before. When my own father was in the hospital a few years ago nearing death, I was asked to remove and keep his rings that defined his affection for his bride and for this university. This is his ring here. I'll never forget that moment when I had to remove his rings, knowing he may never wear them again. But I was asked to keep them, and I treasure them. I treasure it today. My older brother and I both wear this ring, and my nephew received his here not too long ago. My wife has hers, and my son and my daughter, Grant and Grace over here. Grant's only 16. He's chomping at the bit to enroll. He would enroll tomorrow if we'd let him. But they're anxious to wear their ring, and they cannot wait to join me in the Texas Tech ring family one day. This ring defines your loyalty to Tech. I ask you to reflect on the education, the great times, and the forever friendships you have through this great institution, this place, this chapter of your life. Think about the journey ahead, your career, your contributions, and your lifelong connection to your alma mater. You know, from here, it is possible. From here, it's probable, I would go on to say. Let your thoughts be big thoughts. Let your thinking be in worldwide terms. And most important, in everything you do, strive for honor. Represent Tech Global. So proud of you, thrilled for you. Congratulations. I believe Bill will take it at this point. Thank you.